Hello, good morning, you guys. Yeah, how are you doing? Yeah, I hope you guys had a really good week last week, and then yeah, everybody's well, and then yeah, mm, I hope yeah, you are not sick. In the morning, every morning I read the Bible and have time to think about what it means, and then usually I read the Bible English and Korean. And then after I read and think about it, and whatever comes to my mind, I share with my families. I have two daughters and then my wife, and then they read, and then sometimes they say I agree, something like that. And then this morning after I shared the passage with my families, and then I go back to Korean Bible, and then I read the Bible, and then I know, um, I have not been reading, I have not, read the Bible in Korean a lot, and but when I studied, Korean, Bible in Korean, and then I used to note the kind of difference between the words, and then today I read the James book of James 1:12 to 18. It's about if you have a chance to read the James chapter 1, and there is kind of I don't know other language in Korean is there is kind of word is there, and they say I don't know. No, exactly. I don't know the English sounds, but we call the 시험. Yeah, it's always one word, right? And actually, in Hebrew, and no, Greek, and the one word like this. Yeah, peirasmos. Yeah, they use one word. Is kind of, but they have three meanings: trials and temptation, and the calamity and affliction. Yeah, affliction. There's main three meanings there, right? Yeah, but in Korean they say just one word like this, and then it's really confusing if you don't know kind of word this mean, and then in Greek same, right? But you gotta know which one is in the context. But if you read the English Bible, some Bible is kind of there is a distinguish like this: trial and temptation. It's really helpful. So I read the Bible was a New American English Standard Version (NASB), and then it says that the first, the 시험 means there's a trial, and second one is a temptation. So even though it's one word in Hebrew, it's in Korean or the Greek, and there is a meaning, there's different meanings, and you gotta see how you discern the meaning, and decide which meaning is belongs to that one, and which meaning is belongs this one in the context, right? So today why I was reading the Bible, and then that's why I shared what I learned from the Bible reading with my friends, and then I gave them kind of a definition: trial and temptation, and not this one, test. What is a test? Is a different, it's kind of the same word in Korean. They say test is like this, and then trial and temptation. So I don't want them to kind of confuse, and so I give them the definition. So when you read the Bible, sometimes I already told you kind of there is a key word is there, but sometimes we just ignore and then just read in our context, not at the time, in the Bible time, but we're gonna be really confused and we may misunderstand the meaning very well, very often. So we gotta kind of see the basic key. What is the keyword in the paragraph or in the kind of paragraphs or whole chapters? You gotta study about what it means, what exactly. So you can see the kind of different. If you see that there is different meaning, but don't choose the meaning that you want. You know, a lot of people there is the original meaning is here, closer than this one, but they wanna talk about this meaning and then they switch the meaning. So actually, it's kind of word is the same, but they switch the meaning and it's kind of distort the original meaning of the Bible text. So not to do that and just always be careful about the context and decide which one is the right meaning. So so usually, and I'm not good at Greek and Hebrew, so when I try to, I have a big book. So last week I introduced a strong concordance and which is helpful for study the word, and then but there is a strong concordance right there, and then you don't have to buy the book. You don't have to think like this thick books. It's hard to carry it. In maybe 20 years ago, there's no way because there is no internet like this, and then you gotta buy and you have to put the book on the shelf, and then whenever you need it, and then you gotta use it, right? But nowadays, and then if you try to, you don't have any things, and just use the internet like this, and then last time I introduced about some dictionaries, but you don't have to do that, and then and in your word or other word, and then maybe you can try like this: a trial in Greek. Trial Greek translation, and then these are totally different things. This is not a biblical things, right? They say thick. It's a modern Greek. But if we have to go back to the biblical times, and then you can see the different things, and then right here. So I already told you, strong is one of the very it's very exclusive the word study book. Then also you can, there's the Bible hubs, and then they provided this information like this, and then you can see Greek is here. Original Greek is at the time they use this one, right? And then part of speech, noun and man is there is sex, right? Male, female, and neutral, and then you could translate to English like this, and pronunciation, and then definition and usage, right? And then you can see the kind of Bibles they use the word. You can see the word. The Greek word is not the trial and kind of word, and then all the way go back. Here I read James here, right? James second, James chapter 1 to the second to 18. So there is they use the word this one, but it's the same word, but meaning is kind of different. So you gotta discern. That's one of the way that we already emphasized when you read the Bible, and then one of the principles is what literal, right? Kind of you gotta know the basic word and basic the meaning of the word, right? That is a really important things. So in the morning, personally, I experienced how important is the literal interpretation when I read the Bible. So it's really important, right? Oh, sorry. Uh, it doesn't work. That is down. Oh, compress down. Here we go. Yeah, let's review the basic principle of the biblical hermeneutics, biblical interpretations. And I already, before I start the class, and then I already share about my experience this morning, right? And then literal kind of, understanding is really, important. And then you gotta see the basic word, the meaning of the basic word, and then go extend the phrase and sentence and the whole paragraph and the whole book, right? That is the kind of contextual, right? If you just basic meaning is always not fixed like this, and then the word might have two three meanings, and you have to decide which meaning is the best in the in the sentence in the whole paragraph. So you gotta know the context, right? And sometimes you consider the word, and then you consider phrase, and you consider whole sentence, and you consider whole paragraph, and you consider what? Whole books like this. And then we need to know we need to know the basic, um, understanding in context, right? And grammatical, so sometimes nowadays we use a different way to understand the sentence. And if you, when I was in Korea, I learned, and then was a Korean class, right? If you go to college here and you have to take an English class, right? There's a grammar is there, so certain way that you have to write, certain way that they express, right? And then there's a grammar. So, long time ago, about just think about 4,000 years ago and 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and then there is their own way though. In Asian Near Eastern, right? Asian Near Eastern countries around there, and they have their own kind of grammatical expressions there. So we gotta consider that one, and then we gotta learn it, right? And nowadays, when they translate the Bible to other languages, they consider and they try to, translate the text in the best way to the best way, and then, but still, we need to know their because they're kind of a grammatical structures and grammatical usage. Because sometimes modern grammatical usage is kind of different from the old times, right? Keep developed and developed and developed. We use the kind of naturally the modern linguistic grammars, right? What about the historical and cultural understanding? So we needed to know that one, right? And then the culture has kind of shows how world is developed, and how the culture is developed, right? Evolved in certain way. So history kind of shows the way, and but culture is what there is a evolved kind of there is kind of development and little by little, but culture is kind of in certain kind of expression of the development, the final product of the what development, right? If you use this one in this period, and the culture is that one, they don't show the what development, right? Evolvement. But if you go to another period, and they use maybe, maybe they, use it in different ways, but still meanings a little bit change. But what? It's totally different, right? This period and this period, but you gotta know that the culture does shows the outcome of the period, and but they don't show the evolvement. So we gotta know that how they use and how they express, and then there's a cultural and then historical kind of understanding. So we need it. So we are living in 21 centuries, and maybe, I don't know, you grow up in Asian countries, and then maybe the European country, whatever, and then Latin America is whatever, and then what? They have their own culture, history and culture, right? But even though if we live kind of the same continent or regions, but still they have a different cultural expression, right? Products. So we gotta know that, and then when we read the Bible, always go back to the like 2,000 years ago, kind of the and Greco-Roman period, and then go back to more, and there was a ancient Near Eastern culture history, right? So you gotta go back to. Today, we're going to learn about rhetorical understanding. Rhetorical means that it's kind of this one, used in what? Literature. So there's a lot of different style of literature is there, and then you say that narrative, like poetry and wisdom, and like this, and then they express a little bit different way. Sometimes story, and sometimes poetry, sometimes proverbs, like this. So, Bible has kind of those kind of the literary kind of books. So, we gotta study. We gotta learn about the what's rhetorical understanding today. What is the rhetorical interpretation? Here is the definition. It refers to the process of determining how the styles, particularly verbal element or way of expression, and style and forms, right? And organizational structure of our writing influence how it is to be understood, right? So maybe someone, maybe some Bibles come like they tell the story, like Genesis and or Pentateuch is based on the kind of a story, and then if you come to the New Testament and Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and then John, it's kind of the stories. There is kind of if you go to the Psalm, and there's a different style, right? Poetry, there is different style, and form is there. Sometimes they use but you gotta know that they don't follow the modern also literature forms, but they have their own style at that time, right? So we gotta know that one. That is the rhetorical interpretation. So we gotta know the style. So we gotta know the forms, how they expressed, right? And so another another way that you can understand is the rhetorical interpretation is a process of determining the literary quality of the writing by analyzing its genres and structure. and figure of speech, and those factors, right, influence the meaning of the text. It's a little bit more extended, right? This one is a basic, well, kind of styles, it's a forms, but this one is a little bit yeah, expanded, and to where the literary quality of the writings and analyzing genres and structures and yeah, sometimes they use a lot of the metaphors and different styles. So we gotta know that, right? So basically, uh, the rhetorical interpretation is what the Bible is, yeah, like literature, right? Poetry and wisdom and narrative, and they try to understanding from their way, right? That perspective. What is the literary genres? It's kind of a genre means about different types and like yeah, like narrative, poetry, or proverbs, right? Wisdom is a kind of one of the genres, yeah, in using in the literatures. Uh, there is always a different styles, right? And right here, and plays, and poems, newspapers, and novels, short stories, autobiography, and science fiction, all kind of, yeah, this is kind of, yeah, there is kind of own writing styles and they have to follow the kind of direction, right? It's a scientific writing is totally different from, yeah, totally different from what? Writing a novel. Novel is kind of based on what? Fiction or non-fiction. So there is, yeah, fiction is, I think, I think fiction is easier than the non-fiction. Non-fiction is you have to make up story. Maybe you can get some idea from the real life, or you can, but you need to make up. But the one non-fiction is based on like autobiographies, and then based on the factors that you can write down. So we have to recognize the different types of what composition in the Bible, right? History, laws, and poetry, and prophecy, and gospels, and epistles, and apocalypse. It's apocalypse. It's kind of a different styles there. So we gotta know the kind of difference, and then I don't know though. I'm not a kind of a guy really looking to like literature. Yeah, I'm prone to more philosophy, not the literature. And then, do you know, kind of your expression is really different. And when you read a poem, sometimes and you gotta feel the people's kind of emotions and then people's kind of feelings, right? That's a poem. I know there is a certain structures there and there is a certain way, but yeah, yeah, that's why when you read the poem, it's a totally different though. If we don't understand their real life and then if we don't understand their feeling, it's kind of like a narrative, and we don't understand it completely the what's the authors and feeling and intention, right? What about the what is um, the Bible says literature? Uh, Bible is a lot of different a lot of has a contains different the genres, but sometimes we gotta know that Bible is not just literature, one of the literature books. Bible has their own kind of have a message and try to the meaning that the authors try to deliver, right? So biblical writers deliver messages which contains what theological, historical, and literary. So don't look at just this one, literal part, understanding there is a history. I already told you, and it is written in what Asian Near Eastern culture, right? There is a historical background is here, and then there is a Greco-Roman period, right? There's a historical and background is there, so you gotta know that. And but furthermore, there is a theological element in this there. Bible is not you can just separate individually, right? Oh, this is wisdom book. I know. If you read the Proverbs and then it doesn't tell about God a lot, but it gives you kind of a wisdom for daily lives, right? But even though they use the proverbs and what's a wise way, what's the evil way, but the point is that what? How to live in a righteous way as God's people. So always there is kind of a theological, kind of a theme is there. And then kind of even though they express different way, like in different genres, but still there's a unity of the message, right? That is different from other books. Actually, Bible has we have it's how many books in the Bible? It's 66 books, right? But we can categorize like narrative and histories and then prophecy, and then we can do it wisdom and like this. We can do it, but still, it's not a book that we read like a novel. It's not like a novel, right? So in classical terms, and literature is a kind of imitation of the reality, right? That literature is not that kind of abstract something imagination. It's not that one. They try to reality and your experience kind of there's experience and realities out there, but try to express in a different way. That is a literature, right? There's in romantic tradition, that's a kind of classical tradition, but romantic tradition is, it's a little bit 16th centuries, and then literature is image of a human experience. So when we think about literature, when we try to understand the Bible by the rhetorical interpretation, and then we gotta remember this point. It's not an abstract things. It's always related to human life, their experience, right? Like literature. If you read the Bible, it's not a moral books, so they don't talk about always good things. There is really ugly stories out, ugly stories there, but contains something. And the story keep evolving and relate to other stories. So, Bible is not just not a story that maybe ancient story that made up by people. It's not. It should reflect what the Hebrews and Israelites life and stories, right? So literature means it's not a kind of a stage. It's not a kind of moving. It's and enact rather than state, and shows rather than tells. It's not just, I'm telling a lot of stuff, it's not just telling. To show the whole scene is kind of a vital. It's not just static and unmovable, right? And just instead of giving abstract or proposition about virtue or vice, right? So this means they explain in different way, and through their life expressions, and they try to give what is good and what is evil, right? What is so they wanna show about them. So try to people what is live in the world virtue, which is what? To serving God and to following God's word, right? So always, if you read kind of Bibles, and then you can see that there is stories and good or evil character in actions. And if you read Proverbs, there's evil, there's righteous, and foolish, and wise, and kind of goes kind of interact together and then try to show them way. And that's the one of the way they try to explain what is the people's life in the how if you are the God's people, then how you should live in the way, right? There is a little text state what their theme and kind of embody, and you gotta kind of make a whole things through the stories, right? Different forms, But there is always a theme is there, right? I already told you, Bible has a unity, kind of unity, right? There is a whole coherent kind of themes in the Bible. So you cannot eliminate that one. You cannot take away that one, right? And there is a single meaning is there. But maybe people try to, sometimes a lot of people there is a kind of there is a really theme is there, and but sometimes people don't get grasp the theme and meaning, and try to kind of jumble around and take take another secondary meaning, secondary thing as they try to understand and preach. They try to and preach, right? Their understanding. No, but we gotta know the always, and we gotta know the theme. You gotta understand the basic, the intention of the author try to say, right? So it's not easy to understand the truth of a story or poem without the first interacting with the story quality of poetic images. So that is the hardest part, right? If you are not a person like who really loves expressing the way, and then sometimes it's hard to understand. But sometimes you can get it, because if you are in the same situation like the authors kind of describe, especially in Psalm, you can see their agonies. If you are struggling in life and you can have agony in your heart, and there is kind of and then you can understand the better the song. So we need to understand the people's situations and people's the conflicts or people's the problems, issues. Without understanding and without that one, it's hard to understand the meaning of the stories, and the meaning of we can understand the basic meaning, so like a theme, but there's no lack of empathy and your emotion, and then it's hard to feel, right? Communication is kind of empathy, right? So you gotta kind of share the feelings, right? With the people who, yeah, people are listening to you, right? So another thing is that literature is formed by the self-conscious artistry. It means that just think about if you are the kind of a writer, so you have there's stories once you experience there, stories there, and you can express in different way. You can make a good story and then you can make a poem, yeah, poem, kind of, yeah, and you try to emotion and your own feelings and your thought in, yeah, expressed in their way, right? That's up to the authors. Yeah, that's why. And literature is kind of formed like that way. So you gotta know the, yeah, kind of, yeah. Um, when you read the Bible, and then we gotta know the who wrote this book and what about their situation then, especially in the Psalm. And there's a lot of, yeah, yeah, uh, poem, stories about sometimes, and when you read kind of, go to other, historical book, and then you can see the situation, right? And then you can feel more of how they express in the way, like David, and then, yeah, he betrayed by King Saul, and he betrayed by his, well, son, or, yeah, oldest son, and then some, yeah, he kind of committed the adultery with his, yeah, faithful, was officers, and then, well, he tried to hide that one, and then he found out what he has done, and then he repent, and then it's kind of, it's not just I'm sorry, I did wrong. It's not that one, right? If you read and his compassion, and then what? It's totally different. Sometimes I cannot imagine because I never done that way. Yeah, that's why you gotta understand their kind of, yeah. Always they try to express them. Maybe there is a exaggeration, but still their feeling, right? So we gotta know that one. Bible does not show, yeah, parallelism, lyrics, and imageries. Not all the time, but there is. But sometimes, yeah. But yeah, kind of lacking of the work, yeah, the present, yeah, uh, literature shows. But the genre cannot be separated from the, origin in, well, specific moment in the history, right? In literary history, yeah, yeah. So you cannot separate this one. Yeah, nowadays they use, yeah, parallelism and lyrics and then imageries, but long time ago their expressions were different ways. So we gotta know that their culture, and we gotta find out in historical background, yeah, through the, yeah, historical background, right? So always remember that. That's why we study this, yeah, subject. So biblical genres fall in, conventional genres, so hero story, epic, tragedy, and comedy, all kind of stuff. But little bit different, but because the time is, the period is different, right? Just think about it, and always they developed the skills, and nowadays, yeah, kind of use a different way. So if we are not scholar, and then, yeah, it's hard to analyze the, well, Bible in the context of the time. So sometimes we are really used to the current culture and literature, and then we see it with the yeah, with our lens, and it's not all, it's not literature. There is no, yeah, kind of rhetorical characteristic in the Bible. We might say it's a different, but to other countries, and technology is really what? Not underdeveloped, right? Where if you go to not of kind of like America and China and Korea, and so they have a very, very high tech in Japan, right? Japan too, right? High tech countries. It's a totally different though. And just think about I left Korea about 1996, and maybe 1 in 2 years I went back, and I went back. It was not that much difference, and then but 10 years later I went back to Korea, and then wow, see how much changed the city, how much it changes. And a couple years ago I went back to Korea again with my younger daughter, and then wow, wow. I cannot see that the whole maps that are in my mind, in my head. So almost 20, more than 20 years, and then change. You feel like everything is changed, right? That's why when I talk about my how I grew up and with my kids and my wife, and they don't understand it because they were not there at the time. They grew up in totally different environment. So so we gotta know, like this, and we need to know that, and historical and cultural background, so we shouldn't ignore, right? Kind of there's big gaps here. Bible's written, and then we are living here. So 2,000 and 3,000 and difference here. So don't jump the gap, right? Just we gotta acknowledge and go back, and then try to understand and bring the principle and bring here in current situation, and then we gotta apply. That's the biblical understanding. So yeah, the Bible text is a coherent unity always, right? So even though they express in different way, and but still there is a unity. So a lot of people try to see different things. When I was in seminary school and I read a book, I don't know where I shared with you or not, and that one is about land from the Genesis, kind of from the Genesis and Malachi to the Malachi, try to understand the whole Bible through the what? The land. How important, how kind of deal with, and then how the kind of communities kind of moving. Yeah, there's a land. He has a really good insight, and and there is another story is that God created the world and what, and but human kind of a human God created the world, and then created a human being, but human kind of betrays God, and then this is we call the fall, and then God what try to prepare prepare for how the human being is reconnected to God, and then there is a kind of a whole stories going on, and then Jesus Christ set the stage to, so I'm the one who could make a bridge between and God, and then he died, and there's a way that to be redempted from the falling away from God and sin, we call the sin, and then Jesus Christ coming back. That kind of whole story is the main theme that people always uh, a lot of scholars and people agree with this basic thing. This kind of there is kind of coherent themes there, right? We call the unity. Yeah, there is a kind of main content of the Bible. I already told you at the beginning of the human history, creation, fall. In the God said, "Don't do that," and people pick up the fruit of the fruit, and then that's fall, and then God promised to restore to the people, and then what? That's a covenant, and then Exodus means the what? And people, and they got out of from the what? Egypt, the slavery, and then they go to they are going to promised land. It's a kind of a way, all, and then they didn't go into the promised land, promised land, but still there struggles, and they got the kind of law, social law, and then kind of religious law, and all kind of laws they got from God and to sustain the community, right? And after that, and then what? The kings came. People ask the king, we need a king like other countries, and they don't like a prophet, like who kind of mediate the God, and then to kind of deliver the God's message to them, and then they don't like it, and then what? And kings, and they chose a king, and then kind of evolved, and all, and then there is kind of stories about history, and there is kind of wisdom, proverbs, and psalms, and yeah, and different style of the literary style, right? Different literary styles, and then exile and return, and that's a prophecy, and they don't live up to God's command, and what? The Assyria and Babylon came and destroyed Israel. There's Israel kind of divided into countries. So one is Israel, North Israel and Israelite, and another south part is what? Judah, right? And then they destroyed by the Israelite destroyed by the Assyria around the 722 BC around there, and then the Judah is destroyed by the Babylon around what? And around 582 or 6 around there. There is a lot of people, and then prophets, God called some prophets, and then delivered the message, right? That is a prophecy. And then God sent Jesus Christ, and then this is a narrative, or how Jesus Christ lived, and what he did, and all kind of stories. That's the gospel. This is a narrative and prophecy, and different kind of what? Different kind of the literal styles, right? Forms. And then there is what? Beginning of the Christian church and Acts, and there is a history there, and then Paul write a lot of letters, right? You can see that their kind of style is there at the time. So there's epistles, and then and another kind of the style is kind of really like also really yeah, I don't know what to say. And so the end of the signs of the end, and then what happened like this, apocalypse, the consummation of the history, and it means that a lot of things, and there's suns fall down, and stars fall down, and all kind of happening, and what, and Jesus Christ coming back like this. There is kind of good and bad is fighting there, right? And then eventually the good and overcome the bad, evil, and then Jesus Christ came back, right? When Jesus Christ came back. So the overall story of the Bible has a unifying plot, conflict consisting of the great spiritual and moral battle between evil and evil and good. There is a good. I cannot do it. Right? Yeah. So and then you can see there is kind of a lot of conflicts there, but they try to teach spiritual stuff and moral stuff, right? Ethic stuff, and then what? And there's a God and Satan, and God and his people, and human beings kind of impulse toward what? Obedience to God and disobedience to God, right? The, that is a different one. But uh, always the protagonist is God. It's not evil. That's why we give the authority to the Bible. The unity is originated from the archetypes in the Bible, which are the archetypes and master images that reoccur through the literature life, right? Keep coming up like this, and a lot of different things, and sometimes plot and characters and images and light, dark, all kind of, there's a images there, right? And when you read the Bible and you can see that one, and then always what the dark represent what symbolize evil, and the light symbolize uh, or good, like this. Uh, yeah, kind of there is kind of always a was a yeah di yeah dichotomy call, and then what always a good and bad, kind of two things, and there's a conflict there. Yeah. Now we covered this one, and then okay, see, I'm gonna show you how Bible is like this, and then um, Bible has kind of Old Testament and New Testament. There is a we call the Pentateuch. Genesis, this is a Pentateuch. This is a law. Jewish people really, consider this is the most important book, right? And then there is a history, and Joshua, in how they, yeah, got into the land, promised land, and how they kind of conquered the promised land through all the time. Yeah, Esther means kind of when they are, um, when they are kind of destroyed by the Babylon, and they exiled to their other countries, and then they live there, and then she become what? The queen of Susa, queen, right? Those kind of all historical books, right? The historical book is based on the narrative, this one too. And there is poetry there. Job, Psalms, Proverbs, and Ecclesiastics, and then Song of Songs. There is a kind of expression is different from the narrative, right? And this is a kind of major prophets. Their prophecies is kind of long. We call it major. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations together, and Ezekiel, Daniel. But it's a minor prophet. It's kind of their kind of prophecies kind of short, usually. Yeah, the minor prophet. They teach about the prophecy. Different writing styles, a lot of imageries, and different things. And then what about the New Testament? New Testament is a gospel. It's about the life of Jesus Christ. And then Acts, it means that how Christianity is kind of developed, and how Christianity is kind of developed, and then you can see. And there's the main characters of the disciples in the beginning, and then what? Paul, Peter and what? Paul, right? Paul's kind of main characters here. Yeah. And then letters, and then Paul, he traveled a lot of the areas, it's the Mediterranean areas, and then was Turkey around the areas, and then what? And then he came back and and then he sent kind of letters to them to take care, right? Not always, like this. Some letters, Peter, James, Hebrew, John. This is usually mostly by Paul, right? But this one is a different authors. And different is Revelation, is Apocalypse, is by the disciple of John. So it's a different, different. There is a different style of writings there, and that's why we try to consider the rhetorical approach to understand the Bible, right? Maybe if we and then it's better understand, right? But we gotta have some concern here. What is the concern that we have? Just think about the contemporary literature approach has generated their own jargons. With a lot of there is a language, and it's hard to communicate with the biblical scholars. Just think about it. If you are not really don't understand some area like me, then I can use basic program like Microsoft Office, but I don't know the details. I don't know how they develop the programs, all kind of stuff, and then I don't know the language they use and how they I don't know how they make programs or run the programs, and then it's hard. It's hard for me, right? But people who studies computer science and who really create the computers, and they know everything usually. Not everything, but they know very well. But when I read kind of philosophy book or sociology book, like theoretical books, I'm enjoying the books. What I mean that nowadays it's kind of a contemporary literature approach is kind of it's hard to if you use that way, and it's hard to understand the Bible. And then think about it: who are the experts in understand the Bible? Biblical scholars, right? And then sometimes I know they usually analyze in their kind of scales and literature perspective, but there is biblical perspective here, right? That means that. So and another one is so we gotta know that. So there is we need to kind of communicate with their language and biblical language, and then which one is not biblical, which one is not kind of applicable to Bible, and then there is kind of communication is needed. What about using the Western category on the biblical text can cause a distort the Bible? Same. Always we talk about the cultural background, right? Historical cultural background. So a lot of things, a couple, I already shared about the writing styles, right? Just think about Eastern culture's writing style. Go and just go a little bit up and coming back, and on, up and coming back like this. And was Western style straightforward all the time. What about the Asians? Asians is kind of going spiral like this. But they try to deliver it because they don't want to speak straightforward, right? like this, and there's always express their thought and feeling in different way because of the culture. So we are really used to and educated by Western perspectives. So nowadays, kind of we are losing our own kind of expression, own unique things, right? Kind of we just think about your thinking and just think about your studying and whole science and all kind of stuff, and usually it's really westernized. But that's why sometimes we give up our own things, we follow this one, and then what? When they try to understand what's the other people, they don't understand. They cannot understand, right? They cannot understand. Yes, this is not a class, but something's happened, and then my daughter went to college, and then they grew up with a kind of Asian society. I live in Seoul, and then majority were Chinese and Indians and Koreans, and they are the minor. Yeah, this is a different. Yeah, kind of whereas a group of people. So white is not the dominant group, but still minorities kind of formed the cities, and then they grew up like this, and then just think about when they go to class and few people are the white, few people are the other ethnic peoples, majority is Asian. Can you see that one? And then when they are in elementary school and they share the kimchi, and then they bring the kimchi and then they share with their friends, and even though they are other ethnic groups, but share. But when they go to high school, kind of different. And do you know it's a kind of the areas is a little bit expanded. It's more other ethnic peoples, but still, yeah, also and minority are the dominant. But when they go to college, just think about it. They grew up in this always they are majority from kindergarten to high school. But when they do college, they are minority, right? There's a lot of things happen, and they it's a less than 10% in the rise of in Caucasians, but when they go to college, more than 60% are Caucasian. And what? The culture is kind of led, culture is led by them, not the, yeah, it's totally different. She struggled a lot, and then, do you know BLM and a lot of stuff and came out, and then my daughter is kind of struggling a lot because of the discrimination at school, and then by tennis coach, and then she reported and something happened, and then you know they said it. My daughter said, "Daddy, no, they don't understand what minority are going through. They always think about oh they cancel this one and this one. They made new policies, but they don't understand what we are going through. Eventually, they made it for themselves, not for us." So what I try to say is what I try to say is that just think about in Western cultural understanding. We live in one of the Western countries, right? They try to consider us and they try to understand, but there is always a limitation. They cannot understand it fully, right? It's the same way. So if we don't go back to the biblical time, and if you don't understand their life and their uh, history through the through other material resources, and we cannot understand in right way. Yeah. So I'm pretty kind of westernized in my thinking, but I'm working here. I'm working with so yeah Caucasians at church. The majority is kind of more than 80%. 80% are the Caucasians. Wow. When we have a meeting, it's totally different from my ethnic church. That's a cultural difference. Yeah, so we should know that every culture develops their distinctive and unique way to deliver the stories, right? How they evolve, how they describe. But sometimes we don't, the country is not developed enough, and then they also developed country people also look down on the underdeveloped countries. They ignore that one. That's not right way in terms of a biblical, yeah, in terms of a biblical humanity. So yeah, once again, one more time again, one more time again. And the biblical was books always set by what? Was set by the Asian Near Eastern culture, right? It's not a yeah 2000 ago, no, it's not a 10 years ago and right now kind of Western culture. So the biblical text should be understood by the context of ancient Near Eastern literature and culture. Sometimes they don't consider kind of the ancient cultures and biblical cultures, and they distort the biblical truth. They distort the meaning of the author intended, right? So we should be careful. We should be careful, right? When you have a different perspective, and then I studied the culture, kind of cultural studies, and then I'm studying the culture in part of anthropology, and then so every culture is the same, but different. It's not superior or inferior. Different. This culture more convenient, but this culture, when you go to another culture, you may be inconvenient, but they are convenient. When they come to another culture, they are really inconvenient, right? But sometimes this country was a developed countries a lot of money, but underdeveloped countries and less, they don't have money and they're poor, and then always it's not also when we see the culture, I know we politics and economics and economics and influence on our perspective, but not all about in terms of the biblical perspective. We are saved, right? Yeah, how can we analyze then the literature? There's a structural analysis, right? And then structure, uh, the the frame, network of the relationship among the pairs of the object or unit. They can be a phrase, it's not a word, and word are put together and make a phrase and sentences. And there shows what sentences and shows what the kind of relationship. And then they have used a different structure for to deliver specific message, right? Like this one. we can see later what kind of structure they use it. And the structural analysis of the Bible is the effort, the effort to analyze the relationship that exists in the network of structural elements is what? Self-contained portions of scripture. So sometimes if you have kind of a good as a reading comprehension, so we gotta kind of know the structure of the sentence, structure of the paragraph, right? The American writing style is always what in the beginning they tell about, not always, mostly they tell about their mostly what we're gonna talk about, and then they make a paragraph, or the always bottom, and maybe they can conclude. So we gotta analyze, So we need to kind of and just if you do something and you are not gonna do this one, you are not gonna do this one, like there's kind of a relationship there, right? Kind of a cause and effect relationship like this. And that's why we need to understand the structure, right? And there is a kind of techniques there. Time is already used, but just think about we just ignore that kind of technique, and then we just understanding like our understanding the narrative, there is a technique is there to express the kind of in poetry, poetic styles, right? But if we ignore the technique and then we just try to understanding like a narrative, and maybe the point is different. We don't understand the point, right? So there is a larger structure patterns. What is that one? Whenever you have two of anything like sentences, like terms and phrase and clause and propositions and connectives and all, there is all kinds of, you have a structure, right? There is like this. And there's a larger structure. And what God has said, and there is something, and then what God says and something. There is kind of a relationship there, right? Connected, content is there. And whether sometimes, this one is kind of, maybe conditional and cause and effect and just a descriptive, and then, a lot of differences there. So people are using their own things, sometimes, depends on how you use a sentence. And like, like this. I'm really sick today, and so I go to school, right? Just a simple two sentence. I'm really sick, but still I go to school. Like two simple sentences there, but if there's a larger structure they put together, even though I am sick, right? I still go to school. Like there is always a relationship there, and contents maybe support or contradictive or can compare or differentiate in a lot of different way. So we got the larger kind of structure patterns, and so we gotta know the kind of relationship and the arrangement, right? Like a kind of structure. There is a kind of structure, grammatical, and there is there verb. You know the verb and subject, object, and modified verbs, and there is kind of adjective and adverb, right? Adverb will try to explain the verb, and adjective try to more explain about what the nouns. There is kind of modifiers there, so we gotta know that, And sometimes the modifiers kind of shows more characteristics, right? Just think about he's a man, right? He's a man. Literally, he's a man. But we don't know he's good or bad, right? But if we say he is a good man and he is one of your characteristics, he's good, right? It's not bad. Like this, and the modifier gives it more kind of description and characteristics, right? And depend and independent, like this. And if you and sometimes and there is although something and happen like this and praise like yeah you know the praise and then like uh, at school at school is a praise at and school and like this and just think about literally is a kind of book of presuppose unity. So always, and then there's a grammar is there, and then kind of literary, but literature is a poem is poem, right? Wisdom is wisdom, and narrative is narrative, So they have a different structure, use a different structure. That's the modifiers, and then I told you there is a modifier, and then girl is in the pretty girl walked over to the countess rock. The pretty is an adjective and describe the what girls, and the very is what adverb and describe the what the adjective pretty and pretty is described the noun girls the very pretty girl. I mean the girls but they describe that the girl is really really pretty, right? It's not just pretty, maybe best. They even though it's more than just a average pretty, right? Like this. That's the that's the modifiers. Fire. Okay, so when you principles of structure and then here is there is always you gotta know that the paragraph is a basic unit of study and thought, right? Paragraph. Always a kind of a basic idea is there, and then you're gonna know that one. So another thing is that there is a kind of a but you gotta know that the what is about decisive, devise the title for each paragraph, right? You gotta know the kind of each paragraphs each paragraph, so you can make each paragraph titles. There is some basic unit of the ideas there, and then you gotta know bind it, and then what. So you can make your own titles each paragraph. I already what is a chapter chart, right? Like a chapter chart, and if you read each chapter, and maybe you can divide in 3, 4, 5, and then 2 or 3, 4, 5, and then each paragraph's idea, and each paragraph's idea, and each paragraph, another paragraph. If there is 3 paragraphs, and then try to put together, and you can make one title, right? Like this. So each paragraph shows the values and characteristic, and then what thought pattern of the writer. So sometimes just think about who is a personal, who was a key person, key place, event, idea, and times, and so all things is kind of in the paragraph, right? So when you study the epistles, and then it's different from the what? The gospel, the narrative. The gospel narrative is based on the what? kind of story. So you don't have to follow the logical, process. Sometimes there is because it depends on, but usually, but when you um, study about the epistles and then Paul is really logical and educated people, person, and then you have to follow the logic, his logic. It's a different approach. So, so always recognize the paragraph is a basic unit of study and thought is there, but devise is a title for each paragraph. So you gotta divide, and and then always look for the element of a commonality that integrate the passage, right? And paragraph and segment book, and then there is always look for what element for the commonality put together. There's you gotta know the kind of structures, and sometimes there is kind of stories change. It's another paragraph, and sometimes there is kind of they change. The kind of example is coming in and then go and then see, yeah. Um, that is the basic principle. There is a lot of different structure. People use, the writers use it, and comparison, the association of the like things, you gotta compare between similarity, right? What about the contrast? Kind of, the difference. You gotta make what is different, opposite, right? That contrast, comparison is kind of similarities, and then contrast is kind of a different stuff, differences, right? Repetition is what? You can tell the same word and over, and word of praise, right? That is sometimes really important, and that's why people use it over and over, right? So you gotta see the repetition. So when you study, just pay attention though. What word, what phrase is kind of repeated over and over, and then with that one you can try to put either together, and then you can understand better the paragraph. So continuity is about the repeated use of the similar terms and phrases, same. It's going on and on, and then suddenly change. You can kind of there's no continuity, and then you can stop there another paragraph, right? Instrumentation, the setting force of the meaning to end as well as in the end itself, right? Kind of, it's go evolve, and then there is kind of, yeah, and then eventually lead to, the final. So explanation or analysis, right? Maybe there is some detailed information, and sometimes there is analyze more, and then you can see, and then you can kind of there's a kind of description, and then you can characterize like this. So a lot of different way that um, we can analyze kind of the structures, right? Um, we can but that's a larger structure, sir. But we can go to a little bit smaller structure patterns, a little bit different, like uh, like this, and parallel patterns, and yeah. Even though there is no whole sentence, there is a phrase and phrase, and like you don't have to, larger story is the smallest. There is like he is kind, but he is mean. No, sorry. He is kind, and she's, yeah. It's not a good word. yeah, like this. My left is kind and my right is mean, right? It's kind of, it's not a comparison, contrast, right? Mm, that is kind of your pattern, pattern. So you gotta see the kind of a, right? So A is here and A dash is here, right? If you see the Psalm 1, I'm gonna show you kind of one thing. Can we see? Okay, let's see. Look at this. And Blessed is the man who, no, look at this, right? There it is. Look at this. And then there is a kind of a contrast in the, contrast is here. The weak are not so. The what is a, he's like a tree planted by the stream, water, yield is full in all seasons. He, but wicked is not do so. They are like a sharp and the wind, yeah, the wind drives away. Kind of this one who is the kind of people who righteous, who meditate in the word of God and then try to, this is a good people, this is a wicked people. So therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment and sinner nor in the congregation of the righteous. There's a, wicked is a righteous is there, right? There is kind of a figure is here, tree, right? This is Psalm 1. So a lot of kind of different, different, right? Yeah, kind of different. So they use different, different like this, and then there is and comparison and contrast, right? We can see what is different things and compare and compare, contrast. Yeah, it's a lot of things you can read by yourself, and there's a pattern of things, a little bit different structure, and then they said rings pattern symmetry. So, and the Ruth chapter 1, there is here, and then Ruth and Boaz and Ruth, X, and then the, A, so A is here, and then another one is A dash is here, between them, right? This pattern is A, kind of X, and kind of, and there is, and already said, Genesis 37, Joseph's life, Joseph is here, and then what? So different things, Tamar and all kind of stuff is here, and then what? Another, again in Joseph's here. That's a ring pattern, right? They use a different kind of, like the writings that I already is similar to the one. Then it's kind of all the way down and a little bit go to kind of uh, roll around and come back and go down like this. What is a chiasm pattern is kind of, there is kind of, and A, B, and uh, uh, it's kind of this one is A dash and you go then A, so A, B, C, and come back and B dash and A dash, like this, kind of this way, and go all the way down and coming back. There's a chiasm kind of structure. That's the way. Alternative pattern like this, just the A, B, A dash and B dash like this. Not this way and then but A, B, A dash and B dash like kind of repeat, right? Alternating patterns. There is a kind of patterns there. And I already told you this is introversion in chiastic, and then there is a biblical expression is Isaiah 6:10, heart, ears, ear, right? Eyes, and come back to eyes and ears and heart, like a kind of way to expression. And sometimes, there is kind of a expression is kind of ascending or descending, right? And sometimes just think about you see the small stuff and bigger and bigger and bigger, and sometimes small category and larger category and largest category they found, and there's something reverse way, and big and small, biggest and big and small, like their patterns, we can see. And yesterday, I had a Bible study, and he mentioned that I never thought about it, but he said he tried to how kind of was increasing way aggrandizing is a walk. Walk is not just right and walk. Stand. Kind of walk is kind of this one is not a kind of a deep level, but stance means kind of means you together, right? In the position is there one, and then sit always kind of coming to your life. So a little bit, I know he's interesting. It's a little bit different way, but he understand in that way. But you may not agree with him, but he says kind of aggregate is from walk, stance, and sit, meaning that kind of walk is kind of just a little bit moving, but it's not a come to your life much, but stance means that it's a more little deeper level, and sitting is more wholly different. But that one is he tried to maybe we understand it, but not I don't agree with him, but still he tried to see that one. And yesterday I had the kind of Bible study. There is here is the plot. It's a lot of different way. Not all the time this you can see this element, but usually when you have a narrative or they think about this plot and kind of there is kind of exposition. There is a conflict and character and setting and beginning of the story. Right, everything is set, and then go writing actions. There is something is a little bit going up to climax, and they're getting worse and worse. It's kind of more exposure than before and developed a little bit more, and then but still still the problem is going on and on, right? And then go all the way. Wow. The climax is kind of a turning point. So, okay, aha moment is here. And then he's kind of turning point and what? Yeah, and then try to, well, try to going back to the, from that way, right? Try to something, yeah. And that's following actions, right? And then try to something, and oh, you figured it out here, and then studies kind of try to figure it out, and then what? The problem is resolved, and peace is there, happy, like this, and then usually, structure of the organization of the events, then make up the what's fictional stories, right? Usually, have this kind of things, but if you have autobiography, it's a different story. So, even though we approach the Bible like a literature way, and then I already told you, and it's not the exact same way that the ways they were used by literature. So we gotta know this one, and but the basic concept is like this, but sometimes it didn't work. But basic frame we can see that one, right? Maybe even though something is missing. So this one is kind of for the narrative, and then we see a lot of different expression in the not every Bible has they organize in the way though, right? If you see the Genesis and different organization there is a kind of a hero. There's a now Joshua is kind of a hero, but it's but Moses is a hero like this, but right? Not about everything, but there is kind of a not all the way by this plot, right? So we gotta know that, but one thing is that we should know that when we try to understand in different perspective, we shouldn't forget what theological understand. The idea that was flow into the Bible. So always we can use a lot of different way, but what try the Bible said, that's theological idea is there, right? Don't ignore that one. So without that one, if you ignore the theological perspective, and then you will not distort the Bible, the meaning of the Bible, the text. I mean, so far, and we learned kind of a basic, yeah, principle of the interpretation, so hermeneutics, and then what's the first one? And context, right? We gotta consider context. What's the second one? We gotta know what's a literal meaning, literal word, right? Literal meaning. So we gotta know the what grammatical understanding, how they use how they express, and then we gotta know the what historical and cultural background, and then there is kind of a characteristic of literature. So we gotta kind of there is a rhetorical interpretation. But we can use all this one. Why? To understand better the Bible. But if we even know all the cultural stuff and historical stuff and grammatical and literal and then context, it's hard to understand the whole things, right? Meaning that there was the intention of author. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, and then we try to this one we can try to apply to how to use these principles. So maybe next 3, 4 classes we can work together to exegesis, do the exegesis, and then we try to kind of analyze the Bible, right? And try to kind of a exposition, so exegesis, exposite, and then what? We try to find the meaning. So maybe we can pick up the each category, one kind of text from the each genres, and then we can learn how to study the Bible, and then the last class about what is the common the what is the uh, uh, theological, very common the perspective of the Bible, understanding of Bible is a kind of redemptive, historical redemptive understanding. Yeah, there's a big themes in the Bible, and most conservative Christian theologians agree and scholars agree, and then we can learn about that one. So that's a kind of introduction of the literature of the rhetorical understanding of the Bible. Today we learned, and then from next week. We have 2 hour, right? And 1 hour, and then this one, and maybe narrative, and then another one is we can use poetry like this, and then we're gonna learn about that one next week, from next week, and then we can just remember, and then sometimes and maybe we can use the PowerPoint, and sometimes we can work with I'm gonna show you how to study the Bible using the kind of online. So there is tons of the resources out there that you could, which kind of resources are useful for you, and which the resources you need to avoid, right? So like today, and then we can search together, and we can work together, right? And then today, maybe, um, if you, this is kind of an assignment homework, and then um, do you remember last time I gave you, we read it together, we're gonna study together that part next week. Uh, So next week, we're gonna study the Exodus, chapter one. So try to understand, so historical background. Okay, what is the historical background? What is the cultural stuff? Is the cultural background, and then this is a narrative, right? This is narrative. So keep that in mind. It's not a poetry. It's not a the prophecy. So you gotta know that, and then can you see what is the key word and place and who are there? What is about? Okay. So what is the main characters there? Uh, what is the keyword in this content? What word? So we should study. So maybe we can look up the together, right? And okay, so uh, try to understand this text with maybe context, and then you can see, and then before we understand the context, and then we need to know the historical and cultural background, and then we gotta and read through and then what it's about, and then what is the important word that we need to study, okay? And then if you have any question about it, just write down, okay? And we can work together with you, through this screen, so next week. So the assignment homework is coming. Try to look up the historical and cultural background, right? Got it? And read about, I want to read about at least 10 times this one. So try to what it's about, and what is the keyword, what is the word that we need to study. And there is any specific expression is there, structure is there, okay? Any question? Yeah. Yeah, last week is really warm and hot, but this week is getting back, coming back to normal. It's a little bit cold and rain, and this week we have more rain. So I hope you guys stay uh, healthy and well, and yeah, have a great day. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Yeah, you can ask my email. Yeah, you can send the email or you can talk. Okay? Okay, have a great week and